有那个 interpreter 啊，we have interpreter, so if you need facility, the interpreter equipment, please raise your hand. Okay, 这个下午这一场，我们是由Paul Ballanfat 教授给的基调演讲，但是我首先必须要这个讲说，原来邀请他的时候还给他了一份额外的任务，是因为我们当时我们当时邀了一位基调的讲者是 Harry Harutyunyan， 他年岁非常高了，后来最后是因为在这个医生的这个advice 之下，他没有能够成型。好，那Harutyunyan 其实事实上跟Paul Ballanfat 其实算是同行，因为他们都是那个Harry Harutyunyan 曾经是芝加哥大学的东方语文与文明所的这个教授。好，那这个在专业上面Paul Ballanfat 他是在那个法国巴黎索邦大学索邦大学的那个东方语文与文明研究所的学位那所以我们当初其实想到可能做这样一个安排，会有一个非常好的那个互相的这个对话，对这个问题，尤其是当初我们想要就是Harutyunyan 他最近写了一本关于他自己和他父母亲那一代传记那个传记的书，其实从亚美尼亚的文明的衰退，尤其是20世纪初的时候，亚美尼亚的 Génocide 开始，然后他们的父母亲如何是幸存者，然后又到了美国，到了美国以后又作为一个难民，又正碰到了美国的大萧条的时代1929年的这个30年的大萧条时代，所以说他这个从这个非常艰困的2代的经验那他是做了对于这个 Génocide 这个存活者以及历史记忆他的经验、个人经验以及历史记忆做了很深入的讨论。那所以原来我就把那个Harutyunyan 要报告的要 present 的那个章节呢，就寄给了 Paul Ballanfat， 然后要求他，其实事实上是一个很比较高难度的，就是说一方面他要作为一个那个 Harutyunyan 教授的 interlocutor 那个语坛人，同时另外一方面又要给出他自己的独立的观点那当初的其实事实上是给他比较艰困的任务，但是因为那个 Harutyunyan 教授因为年岁甚高不可成行，所以我们今天这一场是Ballanfat 教授的这个独立的这个基调演讲，但是他的议题的形成已经是有刚才那个背景了所以这个是我大概做的一个介绍。那Ballanfat 教授是在土耳其伊斯坦堡的一个很奇特的那个法语大学它是整个是法语大学Galatasaray大学任教那他本身是法籍的。那我刚刚讲的说1995年是在索邦的那个东方语文及文明的哲学博士那么他也曾经在伊朗的这个研究机构以及香港大学香港的这个明华神学院任教。那么他的主要的研究专长是相当特别那其实包含了波斯以及波斯就是伊朗或者是土耳其语及阿拉伯语这方面这三个语言的文明意思也就是说，今天早上我们刘晓云教授报道的那个中国的边疆，只要天山一过的中亚，那么到这个伊朗，到阿拉伯半岛，到北非的这个文明，可能都算是他熟悉的在语言上面和研究上面比较能够这个进入的领域这个也是我们非常这个特别的这个背景。当然，他对于当代的哲学也有许多的 议题，他发表了许多的这个论文，在这边介绍的这个文章里面都有看到。那所以说今天我们的这场演讲其实会有一些比较浓密的那个宗教以及哲学概念的这个讨论，用这些讨论来看待历史。那我刚刚跟他商量了，我们本来没有排 discussion， 但是我可能有差不多10分钟，会将用10分钟时间对他形塑一些问题，在他的演讲中。那我们现在就欢迎那个巴尔法教授。
I don't know exactly what you said, so I'm sure it was very good. So, firstly, I want to apologize and I ask your forgiveness for this talk I will give that will be very theoretical. It is the result of many years of teachings in philosophy in Turkey. Since I live in Turkey since 12 years now, where I teach philosophy. And I was thinking while my colleague was speaking how strange it is. I'm so critical of the concept of politics, but finally I discover that I'm always talking about politics. And this is what I propose to do with you now. Of course, what I'm going to say are merely hypotheses, but beware of this. The words hypothesis I'm using, I'm not using it in a scientific meaning. I'm using it coming from contemporary philosophy, well, since Nietzsche and Heidegger and so on. It is what you can excavate out of systematical genealogy of historical process so as to get to what makes possible a foundation for any building. So this is the way I understand hypothesis, not exactly the common way. So hypothesis is what is sustaining from beneath something the possibility of a grounding. So that's how I understand. So this is what I thought. Since this talk is was supposed to be an answer to Harris Harotunyan's paper about the Armenian genocide that took place in the land that is known now under the name Turkey. Which was only one part of the former Ottoman Empire. I'm going to read what I have written about it, and I have to start with a direct, how could I say, answering to the way, the tune that Harry Harotunyan used. Since his paper, you don't know it, but I read it, so as to answer to it. His paper was a very long complaint about the genocide, which is something, of course, that is absolutely legitimate, and I wanted to respond to it, well, first with some kind of the same attunement, if I may say, and on the other part, bringing back some theoretical points that can, how could I say, maybe deconstruct his own paper or his own sayings. So this is what I have written, I'm just reading it. So how difficult it is to reflect on such an emotional presentation about genocide, deportation, slaughter, and moreover the erasing of a whole world and civilization, since this Armenian world, or let's say the Eastern Turkish world, has been completely destroyed by the genocide. I would need to open the topic from a personal perspective to be able to answer to it, and I would mean the sorrow out of which a self a self stands up and gains the right to speak out of its standing upright to address a straight saying. I have myself far Jewish origins, as many of French people. And by the play of hazard, my former wife and my children are also Jewish. This sounds as an odd confession. However, this strange Judaity, which is not a Jewishness, is the sorrow inhabiting me at the same time. It doesn't allow me to speak for the dead as if they were my ancestors. So I cannot speak for the Jews who were killed during Second World War by all the Europeans, not only the Germans, but all the Europeans, which includes the French, the Italians, the Ukrainians, the Hungarians, the Polish, and so on and so on. It is also an irony that weighs on me of not being a Jew while haunted and surrounded by Jewishness. I have thus no legacy from them, or no right inherited through and from them. However, I am required from this painful sorrow to answer to it, or still the responsibility to speak for all the deeds of history that Walter Benjamin, commenting on Klay's painting, had given the necessary witnessing. I would thus, out of sorrow, give back history some rights in front of a testimony of inheritance. Could genocide be an heritage? Who would be the heirs inheriting genocide? The long history of humanity, and I mean here not only humanity as a collection of human beings, but humanity as both the political and the anthropological conceptual system that has been built through philosophy so as to be the leading concept, the basic hypothesis that sustains modernity and therefore should be at least criticized. What strange heritage would be genocide, since it is precisely the erasing of populations, devastation and annihilation. How could annihilation be inherited? What is inherited then? As Benjamin recalls, extermination of human beings is a permanent repetition that finally might be the essence of history. If history is witnessing the past, if something like a past could be isolated, which presupposes a precise concept of time that is again inherited from metaphysics, from philosophy, the past appears to be an endless succession of slaughters. The system of history is the repetition of murders between human beings, of which the Bible seems to give a basis, with the first murder that is supposed to have happened between two brothers, Abel being killed by Cain. This narrative offers some fundaments to the painful and enigmatic pulse of cruelty that characterizes all relations. However, though it provides such a ground, it cannot be accounted as giving a final point to this question, in a sense that could be accepted as a general explanation. It can merely provide a genealogy, or maybe a genetics, in the sense that Freud uses, for what has been developed during the history of Western European philosophy in the process of redefining the politics that had been designed by Plato, who understands politics as requiring a narrative that provides a legitimacy to brotherhood through the birth of the citizens out of the city territory, that is thus described as the common mother of the brothers. Brotherhood is therefore always somehow presumed within the concept of politics. But brotherhood is already shaped and framed within what would be identified as the originary murder between those two biblical brothers. A murder that is a fiction, of course, but that serves the purpose of answering to the ambivalence of hatred and love between those who share the sameness that constitutes brotherhood. I mean by that the brothers at the same time hate and love each other. Or you could say they hate each other precisely because they love each other, and they love each other precisely because they hate each other. The Decalogue gives the famous command that thou shalt not kill your sibling. The way that is addressed to is through a command that responds necessarily to a previous wish. The interdiction must proceed from an allegedly previous impulse to kill. It also requires the possibility of addressing a singular thou to whom the command is uttered, and it presumes the ability to recognizing a similarity, a resembling between this thou that hears the command and all the others that are both the target of this impulse and the same possible murderer. One can even suspect that the global similarity, the possibility of a similarity between the killer and his victims, lies in the impulse to kill anyone resembling him, as if the similarity would be unveiled through the possibility of murder, as well as the desire of murdering would emerge from similarity. At the same time, this command establishes an asymmetry between the singularity of the killer, who can therefore be accounted to being responsible for the crime, and the victims that are already spotted as a generality. No matter if you kill one person, killing one is killing everybody. All the resembling ones, all the brothers. I mean that wishing to kill someone is always including wishing to kill everyone and anyone. Murder is always singularizing the murderer and generalizing the victim. Murder makes the difference between the singular oneness of the murderer